Hello and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby Babb. Today we are over in the USA and I'm absolutely delighted to introduce you to Dan Curry from Connamara. Dan, how are you?
Good, Toby. Thanks for having me.
Listen, it's an absolute pleasure. We've
Yeah,
been talking about this for what, 2 years at various different
yeah, we're finally got something
stages
scheduled.
now. We've finally managed to get it in the schedule, and we've caught up at various events across the US, and it's lovely to have you on, especially with the bright Chicago sun shining behind you. It looks
Yeah, the
fantastic
last
over
bits
there.
of summer here in Chicago. Yeah,
Exactly. We've seen it. We've waved it off over here in the UK. So I'm
yeah, we're
jealous
getting
of
a
you
couple extra days.
as I see it over your shoulders. Absolutely. So Dan, lots to talk through today. I think you guys have been doing some really interesting things. I think it's a really interesting business as a whole. Lots of developments that's been happening into it. So we're going to dive into all of that sort of stuff. But I always ask people at the very start of the show just to sort of give us an intro. So Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself first and foremost, and then give us the sort of the warts and all of Connemara.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Dan Curry. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Connamara Systems. We uh, we deliver software engineering services into the capital markets, and it's founded by Jim Downs. He's CEO, founder. Um, so that's over 25 years ago now, 1998. I joined Jim about, man, is it 9 years ago now? And to what I had done before um, is I had a market data company, Spryware. You
Hmm.
might have heard of us. We ended up selling that. So me and my partner sold it to Pico, who they've gone on and done a lot of things. Very good infrastructure provider, and we became the in-house normalization solution. So after that sale, it was kind of the right time and to make a move. So I did join Jim here. I had developed a relationship with Connamara uh, because they used to do implementation work for some of our clients. It always went well, very good reputation, a good team to work with. So when the opportunity came here is when I joined Connemara. That's a little bit more on my background.
That's a fantastic way to do it, isn't it? I always think that's a great way to reason to join a business when you're there and you know the reputation and you've had a good experience of working with them. The whole Victor Kiam thing of I like the company so much I bought it.
Yeah,
I like the
yeah.
company so much went in there and built a career around it. And look, there's not too many people there who are at this sort of near the 10-year carriage clock these days. So a good sign that things are going
Yeah,
well
and
for
this
you, Dan.
tech industry, yeah, it's long, long.
Exactly. I heard the other day that the average tenure for developers is about 18 months at the moment. So
Yeah,
you're doing well on it. You're doing well on it. And tell us a little
that's
bit
been a
more
run
about.
back in the NFL.
I know exactly. Tell us a little bit more about Connemara itself as well.
Yeah, so Connemara, like I said, it was well underway when I joined. Again, founded by Jim Downs, Mike Gattney's president, COO. He's been with Jim for almost 20 years. Um, and the major first project that Connemara did was an open source library called QuickFix, so widely adopted in the industry. Um, and it's an open source implementation of the Fix protocol. And it's been what at that time in the markets, in the capital markets, open source was not what it is today. It's almost expected, and just about any project, it doesn't bat an eye. People see that, but that long ago, you tended to have things like Linux or something. People expected Linux, but a lot of the
Mm.
open source libraries were not that widely accepted. So it was kind of a bold move at the time, and it speaks to our support for the open source community. We use it in almost all of our projects, contribute to over 17 different open source projects we contribute to. So that speaks to our expertise in fixed protocols specifically, but just capital markets in general. And it just gives us a lot of credibility. If we're known for something, a lot of times it is our open source project. So from there, we did a lot of fix getting adopted. It's today very well established. It's even considered somewhat of an older protocol now with the way technology moves, but we still do a lot of work around that. So it ends up being support work, implementation work, any sort of fix related project. And then from there, we did just continue to move to project. Often in the back end, we were building complex back end systems. So we developed a specialty building matching engines. And not just matching engines, all the ancillary components to launch an exchange, particularly like being out of Chicago. We work with a lot of derivatives, CFTC regulated exchanges. So an example of one would be Eris futures. They became a full designated contract market with the CFTC. We worked with them, built that technology, and they launched. So we continued to do that. Another partner of ours has been Richard Sandor. If you know him, he's somewhat of a celebrity
Yeah,
in capital markets. We call him the grandfather of financial futures because he designed the initial Board of Trade Treasury future. So
what a title.
yeah, he's got the fedora. Anyways, we built his first exchange, the Chicago Climate Exchange, and that goes back quite a few years ago now. And that was ended up being sold to NYSE at the time, now ICE.
Yeah.
So then he moved on to building another exchange, American Financial Exchange, which has recently ended up in the hands of ICE. But built that exchange,
There's
and
a
that's
theme.
yeah. The Ameribor, if you know, Ameribor is a short-term interbank lending rate, very, very short-term, like overnight, 30-day, 90-day loans. And it's a true market-based interest rate, goes up against like SOFR. And so that was another success of Richard Sandor. So we continue to build matching engine, just exchange technology in general. And we have a lot of Chicago-based exchanges are our clients. So we decided to build a product a few years ago, 2019 is when we initially started to build an exchange platform. And we just kind of bootstrapped it, built it internally, and we started to acquire clients to the point where a couple of years ago, we had enough clients to say, we're going to separate this out as a separate business. And we spun that out as EP3 by Connamara Technologies. So that's an exciting thing. And that just speaks again to the complexity of the things we can build, things the products that we can launch. So if it's relevant.
Talk me through that process. So the sort of it's an unusual sort of play, isn't it, to have the sort of spin outs. I say unusual, but it's not
Yeah.
the most common in the space for people to be doing that. But I think it's been a fascinating success story for you. So tell me a little bit more about EP3 and the whole thought process behind that.
Yeah. So what had happened is what Jim, I think, really decided to do at the time was, having done it several times. I mentioned just a couple. There's several others. So these are big projects. We had all this accumulated knowledge, all the pitfalls, all the things to do. So like Jim describes it as like clean sheet of paper. It's kind of exciting. Let's build a product. Let's be thoughtful about it and come up with a product roadmap and build it from scratch. And it's a microservices based architecture using modern like open source libraries, and it's very performant. All those things went into it. So that when we had the engineering talent, of course, from all the projects we've been on. So we built that in 2019, kind of took it to market just quietly. Got a client here and a client there, and it started to build momentum. And in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of exciting changes in the regulatory regimes in the US. So that's really accelerated the growth. So it's pretty exciting, but we're a small firm that actually split. We had enough. It showed how big of a piece of our business that we could justify domiciling it it's a Delaware C Corp. This is real in Austin, Texas now. It's a FinTech hot area. And we were able to hire the engineers, give them options. The structure is better than what we have here, to hire like the young engineers, give them stock options, and continue to grow the business that way. We brought in like a head of business development to focus on just that product. There's a support team, product team. It's all very much a product business. And the reason we did it is we're a professional services business, right? We're consulting, we're engineering, project-based work. It's two different business models. So it made a lot of sense to split the two companies.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because I've seen a number of I've spoken to a number of people recently who've gone down both routes. So you're seeing more and more professional services businesses be able to spin out technology off the side of it. I think when you gather that sort of level of talent and you're sort of exploring more things and thinking about it, it's a natural innovative play. I think what's really interesting about you guys is to be there's not too many 25-year-old companies in the capital markets,
Yeah.
space full stop. I know that sounds crazy to talk about outside of, the banks and exchanges and such like. So to see businesses who've got your sort of track record is fantastic, but it's been kept relatively modest in terms of size and scale. But obviously, that sort of deep expertise is what you've played off. And then to see this sort of innovation come through over the last few years in the business, I think is a really interesting sort of play as to how the company's evolving and what the thought process is evolving alongside that. Right, makes it quite exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. And to expand on the comment I made, like in the last year, a lot of the exchange regulations in the US have changed due to the CFTC approving like event-based contracts. So you can now trade on things like political outcomes and even gaming, which was always kind of verboten. So now there's event contracts based on sporting really is popular with the retail public, like gaming and sporting events. But political outcomes was really big because that wasn't allowed. That got clarified. The CFTC allowed that. And we had a key client that started trading the event contracts before the election last year, election season. So they got their approval the same year of the election and then went live and in production. And the amount of contracts traded before the election was, millions of contracts. And we technically had a client that was larger than any other exchange in the US based on contract volume, because the notional value on an event contract is $1. So dollar volume wise, it wasn't the largest in the world, but by actual open interest or contract volume, it was the biggest exchange in the world. So it's kind of a claim to fame we have.
Definitely a very, very, very cool claim to fame alongside it as well. And
Yeah.
we've seen a lot of evolution in the marketplace as well, haven't we, over recent years? And one of the things I think, which sort of counterbalances that is also people who have been sort of wedded to former technology, whether it be fear, whether it be comfort, whether it be anything like that. There's this sort of trend of large monolithic architectures that sort of lives on. But
Yes.
an ever-growing trend towards the more microservice architecture that we've been seeing recently. I know that's something which you guys have been
Yeah.
noting with interest as well, right?
Yes. Thanks for mentioning. That's definitely a big trend in our space. We're even somewhat pioneers years ago. Some of the early big projects we did building exchanges, we were early on and really grasping and grabbing the microservices-based architecture, putting basically distributed architectures using a message bus. And speaking of, that's kind of the model we use over at our sister company, Connamara Tech. And then in the space right now, there's still a lot of larger institutions on old monolithic systems, and they engage us to help them move off of their monolithic architecture and have a distributed services, microservices based. And we're the right team to come in and help them design that and implement that, because it's a big change and it usually requires a big migration. And the one thing I should mention is that we actually, speaking of launching EP3 as its own company, we've kind of quietly been rolling out a product that helps with that. It's concentric, we're calling it. So it's an adapter, a stateless adapter that you can control, that you can launch, an operator can launch from a UI, and it allows you to abstract all the complex protocols. Speaking of Fix, just using Fix as an example. So it'll support Fix 4.2, 4.4, 5.0, custom dictionaries, and then it'll take those formats in and then put it on a bus. So put it on Kafka or 0MQ or Rabbit or some other message bus. It could be an initiator or an acceptor. So that helps clients kind of get up and going on moving to distributed architecture. So this product is early days right now, but it is now available, and it's been something exciting going on since we spun that out. We wanted to have a product in-house. So.
And this is these spin outs and everything that you've been doing recently. Talk to me about a little bit about the thoughts around that, because obviously a 25-year-old business that's sort of running its lane for a little while. What's prompted the innovation, the pivot, the thought process, etc.
I believe with the success of the exchange platform,
Yeah,
that really proved to us to do it. So at the time, it was kind of a bold decision. that was made, and we just went ahead and did it. But by seeing that success and by having a product in your quiver, if you will, like it's kind of nice for as a project accelerator, because it might be where we're still essentially coming in, very experienced, specialized team of architects and engineers that can come in and deliver, complex solution to a client. But by having this, a lot of times that just it accelerates the project. Like we do have this available, and we can launch it. We can add it into your product, to your project that we're delivering, and so that's the reason why. Like we were just talking about the trend to microservices and distributed architectures, and then just having a product from like I think by the Exchange success, we realized we should do it again. And that's why we made the investment in the last year in this new product that we've been building.
Makes so much sense, doesn't it, when you put it like
Yeah.
that and see how it all sort of badges together? It feels like a no-brainer, doesn't it?
It does. And so it's interesting. You could say that in some ways, Quick Fix it's purely open source, very liberal open
Yeah.
source license, somewhat of a product, but it's not like a true licensed product like we have now. So, but that did also prove it. Like it was good to have that. It's always still good to have that. And then the success of the Exchange platform, and now Concentric rolling out. We're looking to repeat that whole process.
And this capital market space is not shy of professional services businesses in the area, and I like what you've done, which is sort of be very focused in terms of what and who you are, and that deep expertise sort of brings into it. Tell me a little bit more about why people are choosing Connamara, why people turn to you, because it's always interesting to me, and particularly as when I'm speaking to the CRO of a business, and not sort of putting you on the spot to give you the sales pitch in this sort of instance, but I think it's just such a fascinating space, and there is, as I say, not a lot of noise in the area, but where I really enjoy seeing businesses and where I'm seeing the sort of real success at the moment is where people really know who they are and what they are, and are able to sort of develop that into it. It feels like that's very much where you are. I mean, I look over your shoulder and see capital markets experts like blaring out and
Right.
trust and all those sort of words. It's 100% where you sit, right?
It is. Yeah. And that's that. Why do people come to us? That I think is a great question, because what differentiates us, I think, is this track record, and some of the founding principles of the company are like like integrity, experience, professionalism. So a little on the background of the founder, Jim Down. So he was a trader in the 80s and in the 90s, very successful options market making firm in Chicago, always trading his own capital and building his own technology. So around the turn of the century, when everyone was coming off the floor and going all electronic, that was one path to take. It certainly was a tech-enabled, very successful market-making firm. He could have gone that way too, or he ended up kind of switching and said, built tech to building tech for others. That's kind of the origin. But there's that whole ethos of like a trader, the word is your bond, standing behind the markets that you're making. So when people engage us, I feel that's part of our ethos. So they're getting a team they can trust. We've been doing it. Because the biggest risk, I think, to engaging with the client is the project. Are we going to deliver? So you want a team that has integrity, that has trust, that's been doing it for as long as we have. Because there's a lot of firms out there that'll hang a shingle out in their offerings. They're sharp engineers, but they just don't have the. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but we have that track record and the capital markets expertise.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then there's a tagline we use: "We deliver certainty," which I think is the differentiating factor. Like if you engage us, we give you an estimate, we stand behind it, and we deliver, and we have a whole track record and list of clients that we can show. That's really what we're doing for clients.
I'm just writing that down, delivering certainty, because I love that as a tagline for it, because I think it's so important, isn't it, when you're in that sort of space, and as you say, that there's a lot of generic people who are doing various different things, but when you're there and you're known and you're famous and you're experienced, you can't, trust is a word literally sat on your shoulder as as I'm
Yeah.
speaking to you. And I think that is such an important word in capital markets, full stop. There's, if we look at the whole adoption of AI or blockchain, a lot of the new technology that's come in over, even cloud, a lot of
Yeah.
the inhibition around investing into those sort of areas over the last few years has been about trust and confidence. And
Yeah.
when you've got the ability and the experience and the track record and all those sort of things to go into that, it makes it a really interesting sort of play. And I love the fact that that's combined now with this more pioneering sort of view that you're looking at, which goes into more different areas, and that you've got that sort of full, front to back experience in terms of what you're doing. Right, that's where you guys sit. And which is an exciting position to be in, and it obviously gives your customers you know a good amount of comfort in what you're doing and where you come through as well. So when
Yeah.
when
Just
it's when it sort of develops a little bit further, sorry, cut through, come back to me.
yeah. I was gonna say to emphasize that point that and that tag that we deliver certainty, because it's like we're delivering services. Now we do have some product like we're mentioning, but the bottom line is, why do you engage us? It's for something complex that has to be delivered, and there's a lot of project risk. There's a lot of people really hinging on what you're going to deliver. So we're not
Yeah,
delivering a product off the shelf. We're delivering a project, and it has to be done
yeah.
and to be delivered. And you want someone who can deliver it with certainty. So
I think that's an interesting part, isn't it? Because I often think that a professional services team has that sort of almost thankless task. It's one of those things there where you've got to be, you've got to be perfect in terms of what you're delivering, because it's very easy to point. I always love that sort of no one ever got fired for hiring IBM, because it basically
yeah,
allowed them to point the finger at externally. And I guess when you're talking about the professional service space, what I've really enjoy about it is there is no hiding place, right? You've got to come in there and you've got to show that expertise and you've got to add value. Otherwise, it's a very short sort of lifespan within that. So when you're talking about a company like Connamara that's gone through, a quarter of a century in the space and built up that sort of reputation around it, that means that obviously things are going well and are being done right within it. So if you look at that again and say, look, this is how that the how-to of professional services, if you like, some of the sort of golden rules. What do you think sort
yeah.
of kept you guys at the top for so long?
I do think it is like we come up against that. Like, why would you hire a small firm?
Yeah,
Because you wouldn't get fired hiring IBM or
yeah,
or what do they say now, like Accenture or some the big
yeah,
firms.
yeah. Exactly. It needs to
So
be
we
like, modernized a little bit, doesn't it?
so our track record does distinguish us again, because at least that's a household name, but that is what keeps us on top, is that we've been doing it this long. The credibility, the track record, the client references. We
Yeah,
even have what we call like our experience database. So when someone comes to us with a unique project, there's likely some project, they're never exactly the same, but we keep very good metrics of what resources did we have on it, how long did it take to start the project, what's the project arc when it went from starting it, active development, to knowledge transfer, handoff, delivery to the client. So we're actually able to reference that and give that estimate to clients, and they get comfortable that it's based on, there's a real basis for that, because we've done so much similar work, being so focused in our domain, being capital markets domain expertise being so deep. So some of these broader firms will have, they might not be as deep in that area, so they can't reference the extent that we can of very specifically how we were able to deliver something similar, and it gives people a lot of confidence that the project is going to come in that sort of a time range, that sort of time and cost.
yeah, love it. And looking a little bit forward now, look, as we said, look, there's lots of exciting things happening around the business, and there's this sort of evolution and productizing of everything we've been looking at. Tell me a little bit moving further forward. What's exciting for Connemara? What can we expect to see?
Well, we're with this, I mentioned it already, but with Concentric coming out, we're doing some soft go-to-market now. I'm bringing it out to clients. A little more background on that. We have a specific client, very large key client we've had for years, that essentially we've been working with. So they gave us a wish list, and what we liked about that is it was true feedback from the market. It's not kind of our guessing what someone wants. We had a direct input, and then another client behind them that similarly. So we had that to go with. So right now, bringing it out to market, we have that as kind of already evidence in the pudding. We've got early adopters taking it. Our experience with moving people to distributed, since it helps with that, it's kind of made it a key thing. So we're kind of expecting that to be a big end of year push, any concentric. And then the exchange business, you can imagine, has been going, as I mentioned earlier, it's been doing so well. So we naturally come in, or can be, we're a kind of a natural go-to team. So as that, did I already mention this, like the events contracts, for example, there's kind of a rush right now, clients looking to get into that space. So we can kind of come in and help the onboarding of a client, because there's always some out of scope project that needs to get done, things like that. And we can kind of come in. And so the two businesses still complement each other that way very nicely. So that's a nice trend that's been going on. And it seems to be picking up more and more speed. So we're expecting that to take us through like the end of the year and beginning of next year is another hot area.
I love those complementary parts as well. It's always good when you can get get
Yeah,
that
yeah.
the two things
Other than
working
that,
together.
and then it's just the continue to do it, work in and around fixed protocol. We're surprised at how many people are still using fix. I'm not still, but it's like so entrenched. And then moving those messages onto a bus. So there's a lot of work in and around that, helping clients with that. And then we do a lot more in the front end now. So there's a
Mm.
lot of full stack projects where we're doing the front to back development for clients. So there's we have a reputation for building complex back end systems, but in recent years, building some really, slick front end trading screens. And there's more and more of that going on. Usually part of a larger project though too, or an exchange project, for example, where if they're deploying the EP3 backend, we can help develop some custom screens for a client who they're either modernizing, moving off of doing web, mobile, using React, things like that, some modern JavaScript libraries that a lot of people are moving to off of older technology. So that's kind of standard things we've been doing a lot lately. It seems to be
Keeping you busy.
yeah.
I'm so disappointed that I can't be out of the Fix Americas conference for probably the first time in other than COVID in God knows how long. So I'll always love it. You mentioned the Fix community there. I think it's a fantastic space. There's lots of great things that are
Yeah,
happening in it. And I love
yeah.
the sort of companies who are there and looking at driving it further forward and keeping all of that sort of thing. So I've
Yeah, I'm
enjoyed seeing
surprised
you out there.
I won't see you this year, but
You
I
have
definitely.
to fly solo without me, but we'll be there. Harrington Star will be there, so I'll make sure people come up and say hello to you, Dan.
Yeah, we'll catch up the next one for sure.
100%. And I know you've got over to the UK for the one over here as well in the past, so I'll keep my eyes
Yeah,
open for that, and I'll make sure I'm not missing that one. Let's talk more generically about the industry. That there's a lot of you mentioned there about the things that are exciting about Connemara. We've seen volatility rule the roost for a number of different years now in lots of different ways across the markets. To me, it feels like things are getting a little bit brighter. People are being a bit more confident. People investing a little bit and driving forward through technology and the productivity and efficiency that's happening in the space. Dan, are you seeing the same sort of thing? Are you bullish about the future of the industry? What's your take on everything at the moment as we come up to
yeah,
the this will be out in September, October of 2025 as we hurtle towards the end of the year and spring into 2026. Get your crystal
yeah,
ball out. Tell me how we're looking.
yeah. The markets you probably know are, I mean, unless people are worried about them getting a little toppy, they've been very, very strong going up. That's good of course, for us. Our firms are, our clients are trading the markets, and the volatility is actually good for a lot of our clients for the trading firms that are looking to make money on volatility. But I think the market's being so high and the trend seems to be continuing for a while, that'll be good. And I think the industry as a whole, there was the big swoon earlier in the year, like the volatility shot up. It was pretty
Mm,
brief. It was a couple of weeks of like
yeah, yeah,
panics in the markets, and the industry really held up. Like speaking, I keep mentioning our sister, like the exchange, but we really got tested by high volumes. And I know, and a lot of the established our exchanges here in Chicago did really well through that. There was really no glitches to speak of. The market, the industry seems to be well positioned to continue to like grow and sustain this sort of extremes in volatility and market moves and things like that.
I agree with you. I'm excited about where it's going. I'm excited to keep on seeing the success that you guys are doing. And Dan, if there are people here who are watching this who want to get in touch and find out a little bit more about the business, who should be getting in touch with you? What's the best way there for them to do it?
Just come to like Connamara.com, reach out to me on LinkedIn, anywhere. But yeah, just contact us at Connamara.com. Our sister company is Connamara.tech, .tech. You can go out there, fill out a contact form, call, reach out. Yeah, happy
Have
to
your
talk.
life changed?
Yeah.
Good man. Dan, it's always a pleasure when we catch up. I've really enjoyed the
Yeah,
conversations,
thanks,
Dan,
Toby. This is great.
and loved hearing a little bit more about it as well. So, really enjoyed having you on the show. Have a great rest of the day.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Toby.
No problem at all. And thank you all for watching. We will see you soon on the next episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.